home working. Should we carry on or give it up?
Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850. The Eddie Mair Show on LBC.
The current advice from the British government for people in England is this. If you can do your job from home, you should continue to do so. But you and your employer should discuss and agree working arrangements to best suit the needs of the business. On Friday, Boris Johnson took a different tack.
I want people to go back to work as carefully as possible. I think it's very important that people should be, going back to work if they can now. I think everybody's sort of taken the stay at home if you can. I think we should now sort of say, well, go back to work if you can, because I think it's very important that people should try to lead their lives more normally. I want to see more people feeling confident to use the shops, use the restaurants, get back into work, but only if we all follow the guidance.
So we have the official guidance, which is, if you can do your job from home, you should do so. We have Boris Johnson saying people should be going back to work if they can. And in almost the same breath, he says people should follow the guidance. You could be forgiven if you're not completely clear. Sitting in for Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC, Tom Swarbrick, who wanted some clarity from the Secretary of State for Justice, Robert Buckland.
Increasingly, people are returning to work. What the government says is that, of course, it's up to employers themselves to issue guidance to specific workforces about what is a safe system of work. There's no doubt that people who can still work at home should carry on doing that. But there's no mystery about this, Tom. I mean, there are plenty of people who have been working very well from home. That can continue. But increasingly, it's up to employers, people responsible for the systems of work in various workplaces, to set out what their requirements are. We are seeing more and more people coming back into the workplace in a managed way.
Up to employers to set out the requirements. On Twitter, our political editor Theo Usherwood highlighted a report from May from the City of London Corporation, which found that 1 in 25 workers in the city could return to their desks in the short term. 1 out of 25. Let's talk about this. First of all, this is personal, of course. Are you working from home now and happy to carry on doing so? Is it your choice whether you return to the workplace? We have from the Minister up to employers to set out the requirements. Is your boss keen for you to return or happy for you to stay? 0345 6060 973. It's personal, and there's a bigger picture, isn't there? A lot of companies which rely on footfall in our town and city centres are struggling. The people who sell sandwiches and coffee and much else besides. With people working from home, their products are going unsold. They're in danger of going under. Some already have, of course. If you're in one of those businesses, I'd love to hear from you. Could you cope if everyone carried on working from home in the numbers they're doing at the moment? And then there's an even bigger picture. Quality of life, I suppose you could sum it up as. Does anyone miss the commute? Does anyone think it's a good idea for cars to be in traffic jams polluting, or for people to be crammed onto crowded trains, buses and trams? On the other hand, social interaction has been greatly reduced. The casual conversation, the kind word, the moment of solace. That's hard to do in the two-dimensional world of online meetings. Some people working from home crave spending proper time with their colleagues. Isolation has increased. For some, a crowded train or a traffic jam sounds like bliss. So what about you? 0345 6060 973. When this lockdown started, there was a lot of talk about the cleaner air, our new way of working. Could this be the future? Well, now Boris Johnson's government is pushing us towards returning to some extent to how it was. And I wonder how that strikes you. We've heard people talking about the strain on their mental health, being locked down and working. No escape, really, from the work and family pressures. being back at the office might be just what you need. Let me know how it is for you. 0345 6060973. Throughout the hour, we'll gauge opinion and expertise on this, starting with Natalie Wharton, who's founder and managing director of Wharton Business Counselling, an organisation of 40 professionals. How are you, Natalie?
Very well, thank you.
What do you think of this desire on Boris Johnson's part? People should be going back to work if they can.
Well, I do think that there are a couple of things that organisations have to consider when they're going through this. As we've just heard, there's an element of individual choice by the employees, but also that balance with direction from businesses. And when organisations are thinking about this, at the moment, they're very much focusing on the logistical safety conversations and decisions they need to make for businesses. So we hear about one-way traffic highlight systems, limited service areas that you can touch, check-ins, induction on code of conduct. But ultimately, people will be making their decisions not just on the logistical safety of the office, but also their own personal safety at home, and whether there is a greater need to be in the office than there is to be working from home. So I think there is both an organisational choice as well as an individual choice that needs to happen.
And isn't the reality, though, for many people who are working from home, they've been able to do it for 3 months or more? You would imagine the likelihood is they could probably do it for a great deal longer. If it was down to the individual to choose, and I wonder whether you think that that's the appropriate outcome here, if it was down to the individual, wouldn't many people choose to stay at home?
I do feel that when the individual chooses, it may actually increase some inequalities in the workplace, and I can touch on that at the moment, if you like. Yeah. But I think ultimately, yes, it has worked, and we have a huge number of clients that have shared that they are surprised how well it has worked. But it's worked very well in a short-term perspective. There's been a lot of temporary fixes in organisations to make it work, and a lot of patience and consideration of the disruption that might be happening or distractions that are happening around people. But we're starting to see some of those tensions rise as people are starting to get a little less patience of those inabilities around VC of joining late, or technology not working, or interruptions in the background, and in fact building an etiquette for how you do this. So yes, it has worked to some degree, but I would argue that people are starting to ride on the fumes of those relationships, and there's a need now to stop and think about what has worked and what do we take into the new world.
And what about those inequalities?
Yeah, definitely. So if you think about the inequalities that have been raised here, you will see that we know that some people, whether they are on VC, may not be in the same social setting as others. So they may be taking calls in their bedrooms or in a shared space, versus others that might be taking them in their second home or in a much grander, a wider space. So you can visually see some inequalities starting to arise in the workspace. You're also starting to see those when, if people have the choice to return, you would say that those that maybe feel unsafe at home and see the office as a safe haven for whatever reasons those may be, starting to return, or for those that had the not appropriate home setting or technology or bandwidth to be able to work from home. So we're starting to see with some of our clients that the juniors are wanting to return, while some of the seniors are less in need of returning to the office. So you can create a power difference there. That's
interesting. And just finally, the government is encouraging employers and employees to have conversations, and of course, that seems the most sensible course of action. And they will probably come to some arrangement that works for them both, but not always. And I suppose when it comes down to it, isn't the boss always the boss? Isn't the person who ultimately decides whether you work from home or not the boss?
Good question there around whose decision it is. I do think it should be a balance between that. But I think also the ultimate thing that businesses really need to do here is actually stop and think about what's the purpose now of the office? What are you missing from working from home. And our clients are telling us it's very much community, collaboration and creativity, and those almost serendipitous encounters that you can't recreate in the working from home environment. So it's important for businesses to actually think about how will they use the office going forward. We have some of our clients that will say, actually, they're not returning to the office. They see that there isn't a need for the office. And I would challenge them around, to what extent has your business a need of creativity and bringing people together and asking your people what they're missing or how you're going to recreate that. I think that's very key. Versus those that might be sitting across a hybrid setting of some working from home and some working in the office. It's then thinking about, actually, do you think about the tasks that people are doing and how you separate those in those two settings? For example, at Wharton BC, what we're doing is actually saying we will go remote first, but actually when we need to be collaborative, creative, we will create that in a virtual setting, in an office setting.
Very good to hear from you. Thank you for starting the conversation. Natalie Wharton, founder and managing director of Wharton Business Consulting. Chris